In this podcast, we would like to talk about the United States midterm election and grand strategy. Normally, the midterm election are seen more like a referendum pro or against the president, and it looks like, in fact, just an internal election. But in reality, as we are talking about US, the problem is that the impact on the world is very important, even at that level. I mean, normally the dominant level is the election of the president. But in reality, when we have a crisis and when we have to solve problem in the world, for example, the problem of Ukraine, the problem of North Korea, the problem of Israel, the problem of Armenia, the problem of East Mediterranean region, then we have to think in a quite different way the results of the midterm elections. So the result right now is in fact exceptional because if we see the history of the midterm elections since they were introduced, in fact, we have only 8 times that the president's party gains seats in the House or the Senate, and in fact, only two that the president's party gains seats in both houses. So now, with this election, we have the eighth time that we have a result, and the idea is how to interpret this. So the first point is that Democrats and Republicans are, of course, the main parties. And the problem is that the midterm election seems to be how to switch the power of the president. But in the example of 2022, the situation is different. So, what is my point of view about that? I mean, if we are only from one party or on the other, for Republicans or Democrats, we are happy or not, depends of the result. But the problem is at the level of grand strategy now, we need what? We need continuity. We need, in fact, a result which is sufficiently close to the middle. And in fact, at the end of the process, instead of a victory or a failure, we have just a strategic mix. And when we have the Senate with Democrats and the Congress with Republicans, in fact, we can say that we have a biparty level, and we can see that the point is the dominant strategy is from the US and not from one of the party. So in this situation, in this year, it's very important to see that the problem was not the win of one of them. The problem was, do you have the same probability to get the same strategy in the future? And with those results, we get this. So for me, what is important is to see that at the midterm election, we have something like a consolidation of the strategy of the US in the front line of the problems in the world. And it is very important because it's not only related to the internal problems of the US, but also of Europe. So, in relation with the US and Europe, but also with China, it was very important to get this result. So, don't see it only at the tactical level or even the strategic level, but see it as a result which is, in fact, an equilibrium in the sense of Nash of the strategic mix and the strategy of the US, because we need this to solve the problem in Ukraine. We need this to solve the problem in the US, but also in Europe, and of course in relation with China. So, if we have to interpret this result at the level of grand strategy, it was the optimal result, and by the way, also a robust one. Why? Because now we have this continuity, and we can see that even for the problem of Ukraine, the US will be in the same side and will help and support the Ukrainian people. There will be no change about that until the end. Another point is the situation with China, and especially its relation with Taiwan, is a problem related, of course, with North Korea, but also with Japan and South Korea. In this region, the continuity of the strategy of the US is very important. So now we have also this point. And in the East Mediterranean region, it was important to have this continuity to see that even if we have problem, especially with Turkey, for example, the situation and the result of the midterm elections more clear now, and it's obvious that we have the same strategy in the future. So it was important to do this at least for the 2 following years, and to see that even if at the beginning of our study about the midterm elections, we talk about an internal process, we can see it right now with the intervention of the grand strategy that this result was in fact very important to get, not only for US citizens, but in fact for mankind. Why? Because we have to solve many problems right now, and we wanted an equilibrium in the middle to stay at the same level.